Om Brahma, Om Brahma, Om Brahma, Om Pitanosi, Pitano Bodhi, Namastestu Mama Hinsi, Vishwani Deva Savitar Duditani Parasuva, Yalbhadram Tannayasuva, Namaha Shambhavaya cha Mayabhavaya cha, Namaha Shankaraya cha Mayaskaraya cha, Namaha Shivaya cha Shivataraya cha. Om. তুমি আমাদের পিতা, তোমার পিতা বলে যেন জানি এবং তোমাকে আমাদের নমস্কার যেন সত্য হয়। হে পিতা, হে দেব, সমস্ত পাপ আমাদের দূর করে দাও, যা ভালো তাই আমাদের দাও। তুমি সুখকর, তোমাকে নমস্কার। তুমি মঙ্গলকর, তোমাকে নমস্কার। তুমি সুখের আকর, তোমাকে নমস্কার। তুমি মঙ্গলের আকর, তোমাকে নমস্কার। তুমি মঙ্গল, তোমাকে নমস্কার। তুমি চরম মঙ্গল, তোমাকে নমস্কার। এটি আমাদের যজুর্বেদের নমস্কারের প্রার্থনা। তাই
That was Srimati Shutopa Home, retired assistant headmistress of Brahma Girls School, who said the prayer with which we begin our program today. We welcome you to the distinguished lecture, Legacy of Tagore, Geddes and Bose, Confluence of History, Heritage and Education, to be delivered by Dr. Bashobi Fraser, CBE, Professor Emeritus of English and Creative Writing, and Director, Scottish Centre of Tagore Studies, Edinburgh, Napier University, Scotland. I would now request you to pay homage to Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose.
Request Professor Shaha and Professor.
We request Professor Shaha and Professor Fraser to please join us here.
Thank you.
We now proceed to the welcome address to be delivered by Professor Parul Chakraborty, Secretary and Trustee, Sir J.C. Bose Trust, and Coordinator of J.C. Bose Science Heritage Museum.
With permission of all of you, can I sit? Today's program, all of you are aware. We have organized this program by J.C. Bose Trust Science Heritage Museum, and our learned speaker, she will talk about her later, maybe, Dr. Bashobi Fraser, CBE. What a great honor. And Professor Emerita of English Creative Writing, Director, Scottish Centre, what not, Scott. Everything, many illustrious career. Professor Chandima Shaha, the one and only women president of Indian National Science Academy during its journey of 88 years. Indian National Science Academy was established in 1935 as NISI, Indian National Institute of Science in India. In 1935, and Jagadish Bose, one of the founder member. Since then, its journey, it was founded here in Calcutta, and Mehta Shah was perhaps the first president of it. And in his journey of 88 years, the one and only, a big applause for Chandra Shah, please. This program was conceived during her tenure as presidency, but it was so difficult. Two great ladies, they are trying to coincide. And she is legacy of Sri. So, and spill over now, when he just handed over her child. So still she is so gracious to join us to inaugurate this program. And this is not the end of the program. This is the beginning of this series, and it's also a continuation of our celebration of 165th birth anniversary of 66th birth anniversary of Sir J.C. Bose, which it was started in Science City. I wanted to have it here, but science people, NASA, many students. So that anyway, I have a big announcement to make. Yesterday night I got a mail from IEEE headquarters. Next. IEEE Jagadish Chandra Bose Medal in Wireless Communication. Established in November 2023 for his contribution to wireless communication technology. He demonstrated this in Royal Institution, London, 1897, more than a century ago. And he is being recognized worldwide now. What a great pleasure for me. What a great pride, I should say, for J.C. Bose fraternity, for all of us. Now I come to our program menu of Dr. Bashabi Fraser, PhD. Oh, I cannot cite everything, only thing I will say. Her root is in Bangalore. She was born in Purulia, Bharat, in a family hail from the other side of Bengal. Poddar opare, Kornafulitide. Taito. Okay. What is it? I can't read. What is happening? All education here, Bevon, Political College, Calcutta University, Jadapur University, everything there, Edinburgh University, the fellowship, Commonwealth Fellowship, I guess. No, what is it? UGC Fellowship. There she met Neil, son of the soil, Scottish Neil Fraser. He inducted her and embraced her, so she settled there. We lost. Neil Fraser, son of the soil, please, Neil Fraser. Neil Fraser, Bashabi, a big applause for Bashabi. Many things, honors. I would say that Commander of the Order of British Empire in 2021. Tony didn't quit, right? And you got received this from the then Prince, now King Charles. Next place. Oh, I cannot cite the accomplishment and narration, addition, book, etc. Everything there. You go to Google and search it. Now I tell about Chandima. Chandima, she is the pride of all women scientists, and not society. She is the only one, I say, the one and only women president since inception, 18 years ago. Vice President, elected fellow of all academies, all 3 academies, awards, etc., etc. Most important one, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Medal in 2019. And many other things. And as I said, program was conceived during her tenure as president, but we could not only, but she is now gracious enough to chair the session here. Why this? Why you are organizing this symposium? See, why the title of this symposium is Legacy of Tagore, Geddes and Bose, Confluence of History, Heritage and Education. Mind that, Legacy of Tagore, Geddes, Bose, Confluence of History, Heritage and Education. Why? Why this? Why you are doing this? In the last decade of the 19th century or early 20th century, confluence of great minds created a new culture linking science, literature, religion and philosophy. It was within this renaissance a creative synthesis of the best of the East and West took place in science, philosophy and literature culture. Rabindranath Tagore in literature, Jagadish Chandra Bose in science, Patrick Geddes, one of the pioneers of modern Scottish nationalism, and his transcontinental friendship with Tagore and other stalwarts at that time accelerated bridging of the gulf between the mystic East and the materialistic West. I say that the materialistic West. This Renaissance made a significant transition of India from a medieval to the modern India today. The period 2020 to 25 is historically very important. Why? Because of the following achievement. All these achievements we made more than 100 years ago. What are these achievements? Bose's scientific discoveries, Paris Congress 1900, Bose Institute Foundation 1917, Tagore's Nobel Prize 1913, Vishwavarthi Foundation 1921, and Patrick Geddes' stay in India for a long period, 1915 to 1924. It's a long period. Now a time has come to honor the contribution of this constellation on internationalism, synthesis of East and West, mingling spiritual philosophy of the East with the materialistic sides of the West. It is also right time to evaluate how the legacy of the trio promoted the foundation of education, culture, modern science, enlightenment in India. Can you hear me? Because I haven't changed. So I say that it's the right time to evaluate how the legacy of that trio has promoted the foundation of education, culture, modern science, and enlightenment in India. Can I have the pointer, please? You have the pointer. It is working. No, it is not working. Okay. Considering this, Jessie Bose Trust has been organizing a program on the legacy of Tagore, Bose, and Geddes, Confluence of History, Heritage and Education, jointly with the Scottish Centre of Tagore Studies, Scots, Edinburgh, and the Indian National Science Academy. This is the beginning, the first lecture in the series. There will be many more. I will skip this for the time being. If necessary, I will come back. Constellation. Tagore. I don't have to Bard of Bengal. I don't have to write to tell you about the Bard of Bengal. Patrick Geddes, a pioneer of modern Scottish nationalism. I don't have to tell many things, maybe she will cover it. And Jessie Bose. You know all about it. This the organizers, we are the organizers. Now, Bose, Geddes, Tagore, what is their underlying legacy? From a country going through a crisis, identity crisis, during the colonial period, Jessie Bose was a source of immense national pride and hope. In 1937, he founded Bose Institute, Bose Vigyan Mandir, Calcutta, for basic research in interdisciplinary sciences, a concept that was not prevalent at that time. For the first time in the South, in Asia, I would say. Tagore Geddes were converging on the next environmental idea, action, synthesis, significant at the time of interwar ages, two wars, First World War, Second World War. They first met in Calcutta. Later, Geddes visited Poets School, Vishwavarti, Shantiniketan now, Oneness University, Vishwavarti. They are built environmental and humanistic cultural visions of creative unity, and played a vital inspiration for an international, site-specific, socio-cultural, environmental friendly institutions, which is of great relevance today, green revolution, etc., etc. I don't have to mention to you all. The trio will continue to be, rather, will be our cultural unity. The futuristic world mind of Greenpeace vision, where the global humanistic green culture will find its own future environmental nest. We already paid our heartfelt homage to our Acharya Bose, the India science. He made contributions in many areas, education, plants and cosmic unity. Now, there are many visitors who are coming for the first time in this place. So, I am tempted to share with you briefly a virtual tour, to say a few words about our museum, our trust, our vision, etc., etc. This microwave research, I already mentioned the long time of 1894 to 1890 microwave research. This is the basis of all modern wireless communication, satellite, radar, mobile, Wi-Fi, 5G technology, even the Chandrayaan mission. NASA scientists and other Western scientists, they recognize that the present-day space odyssey has been possible following the footsteps of J.C. Bose's discovery. Second period, cosmic unity, Paris Congress, if you remember, Paris Congress 1900, where he met Swamiji. Similarity between living and non-living. There is experimental evidence to show that this wood, a metal, a frog leg, and me would respond to external stress, to if you heat, or poison, or drug, anything, you will respond similarly. Similarity between, these are always studied. Think about this and experiments, all these things, these experiments. Third period, plant research. He is regarded as the father of plant biology now. Monumental studies, I cannot see. There are many books. If you read, I cannot think of a magician who is 60 years ahead of his time. That's not my saying. Nobel laureate in physics, 1977 in physics, said he was 60 years ahead of him. As I said, now whole world, already I told about it, whole world, space scientists, NASA and other space scientists, they are acknowledging with gratitude that present space odyssey has been possible following the footsteps of Bose. Not our country, not even the Chandrayaan people who made it, they didn't mention it. Even our Prime Minister made a big speech on that, mention about J.C. Bose. I come to Acharya Bhavan now. This has been possible, because of his discovery, 5 millimeter of discovery, 125 years ago, during the period of 1894 to 1896. He demonstrated it. Royal Institution in London. Acharya Bhavan, you see, at that time, 110 years old, 20 years old building. Most couple lived here till the last day. What used to happen here? This place is very of historic importance. He used to entertain his visitors, all people here. Is the main, I will not call a drawing room, but is distinguished guest and all there. He used to deliver it with the all derivative on science, art, philosophy, literature, etc. With some of the greatest luminaries of the country, Tagore, P.C. Roy, Sister Nivedita, Vivekananda, and abroad. Of course, at that time there was no internet or Google or anything or connection. So what they used to do, postal communication, by post, writing. Some of them visited also. Among them, Albert Einstein, Barnard Shaw, we have evidence of their correspondence of his donation, etc. Ramarola, Robert Raleigh, Henry Cavendish, Coca-Cola, and his notable students, S.N. Bose, Magna Shah, Vasantachandra Mohan, many eminent students, all of them are referenced, and there are many others. What is treasure here? What are the treasure here? Why it is so important? It is a rich repository of personalia and memorabilia of Acharya Bose and Lady Bose. All his original instruments. Instruments of Bose, books, papers pertaining to his epoch-making scientific discoveries. Instrument group upstairs, we have all the instruments he used for pen research. But the one for wireless wireless telegraphy, it is nowhere in the world. It has lost, not even in the London Science Museum, London, there and anywhere. And these are all his plant instruments upstairs. And on the two instruments, these are all are made by him. With whom? With goldsmith. High precision work, goldsmith, blacksmith. He used to work with them and made all of these instruments. Two of these instruments were selected for Science and Technology of the India exhibition in Science Museum, London during 2017 and 18. Our Honorable Prime Minister visited with Charles, Prince Charles. That are very we have his DSc thesis. He got DSc thesis, his DSc thesis, London University 1896, examining as two Nobel laureates, J.J. Thomson, J.H. Ponting. They said no requirement of course, etc. You have to take this course. Only these two papers he submitted are sufficient to confer DSc degree. And he used this red gown to receive the degree. The red gown now we are restoring. What are the other artifacts? Look at the paintings. First painting, Oily Bushes to Nalini and Devendra, Mohan Bose. Painting by Rabindranath Tagore. 1919, we have restored that. Portrait of Tagore by Rabindranath Tagore, 1913. It is over there. Over there. Paper paintings. We have also, if you have time, you can see that before restoration, after restoration. They are paper painting. Portrait of Jesse Bose by Rabindranath Tagore, 1925. So it's a precious thing. Precious thing. We cannot even, we are afraid that without proper security, enough security, we cannot put them on display every day. We have his laboratory, his photography room, all there. Entrance from Academy of Science, meeting room, this is the meeting room, this is the meeting room. His bedroom, instrument room, photography room, his photography room is everywhere. And his dark room, he used to have his own dark room, develop his own thing. Some of the things that we use for developing photography things, we have restored all those things. His laboratory, the observatory over there, observatory. Everything, these are restored things. Now trust.
I think you have gone to slide
Which one?
Previous slide.
Hmm?
Another.
Oh, I'm sorry. These are the priceless paintings, murals over there, following the concept of Ajanta Ellora. Ajanta Ellora, Jesse Bose, Sister Nivedita Redipur, they visited Ajanta Ellora during 1915 or so. At that time, they met Nandalal Bose there, he is doing the renovation work over there. Then they brought him here, and all the murals over there, 29 murals, following the history of Mahabharata. Here, you know, what is the Shokuni Mama playing Pasha? We have it here. And Bharat Mata, the painting, original painting by Anindanath Tagore during Bhagavan Andolan 1904. This was made after 1915 on the wall, on a cloth, painted on the wall, and a special thing. All this we have restored after restoration. And something went for restoration, so it is empty over there. And see, we have the first national flag designed by Sister Nivedita, a foreigner. She thought that to unite people, to unite Indians, you need a national flag. So she designed this flag. মাঝখানে হচ্ছে দধির হাতের বজ্র, দধিচির হাত. We cannot follow perhaps.
No.
The bones of Dodiji, those are very stable bones. Bones of Dodiji. So that Bose was made. Bose was the symbol, and she wrote Vande Mataram, Salute Mother. And it was displayed in National Congress of Science, and the National Congress at the time, 1906. We have restored this. We have this restored. It was like all pieces. And see, books gifted by many luminaries, like Tagore, Sister Nivedita, Romarola, and Barnard Shaw. There's a story that when he was in England, he was talking to Barnard Shaw. Barnard Shaw said that his cabbage garden, says, can I take your cabbage? Barnard Shaw, yes, you can. Then he put something, JC board, on cabbage. And it was not any more live or not synthetic. He was cursing him like, anything, you killed my cabbage. Then he put another thing to revive this. And after that, Barnard Shaw sent him a set of books writing from the least bioterminology to the latest bioterminology story. We have restored the same. It is there. The signatures of that Romarella, Jacques Estevard, with his signature, and French, I cannot read French, maybe some who are French people, French, they can unquote this, but the book we have restored, and many other books we have restored. Sister Nivedita's book, Mother Kali, this is actually this Mother Bharat Mata concept was from Mother Kali, not with a Gochandi room, but with everything. She's giving us education, food, and all these things, and courage so that we can stand. Mother Kali is not good anymore. It's like Bharat Mata. I have shown this, right?
Yeah.
So, at present, trust is managed, this Achajon is managed by a trust. Trust made by Tagore himself and Jesse Bose himself in 1931. Mandate of the trust is to preserve Achajon with its movable, immovable, tangible, intangible heritage, artifacts, whatever preserved here. It is separate from Bosnian story. It is best to attempt to make two things. She explained why she made two managing bodies. Trust for this and another one for Bosnian Institute. Mission of the present trust is of the trust board is to develop Acharya Bhavan into a world-class Science Heritage Museum in memory of J.C. Bose, just as Albert Einstein House in Bern or William Shakespeare's house on the Stratford or Melbourne and Marie Curie's house in Warsaw were converted into personal, these are personal houses, were converted into museum. So I'm sure many of you visited. I am fortunate to visit all Vichy, and I think that we have rich artifacts here compared to those two. In Marie Curie's museum, there I have seen her thesis preserved from have seen that. I was very disappointed to go to Bern. What I have seen, a chair and table and a kitchen. He used, Albert Einstein used in Bern, Germany. Anyway, so this gave us courage to develop it into this thing. What do I get support? Support, philanthropic support from individuals, from corporate houses, mainly corporate philanthropic support, and partial grant from the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. They gave it for conservation and restoration, not for any other thing. Conservation and restoration of some of the items. So, Acharya Bose, you see that today Acharya Bose stands as a many-sided personality, eclectic taste and eclectic taste. You can see not only there's not only scientist, his taste of Acharya Bose as an artist, as a philosopher, it is the life of J.C. Bose vis-a-vis the history of that era that is treasured here in Acharya Bose. This is a record of path of progress of modern science in the Indian subcontinent as well. So it is the responsibility of all of us, not the child model, all of us here, all national people. It is a national heritage. It should be preserved for posterity at any cost. I fervently appeal to you, to all of you, to generously support this heritage mission. It's the mission of the country, mission of the nation. See, J.C. Bose, when we opened, cordially invite you to visit J.C. Bose Science Museum. Today we may be busy with the lecture matter, may not be able to show you around. After the lecture you will see, if there is 5 minutes or time constraint, then we will be able to show you. Thank you all for your kind patronage and gracious presence. And I would like to mention one thing. We always, get some support, personal or corporate support for holding this. Today's program, shall I mention this? You can okay. So today's program has also been sponsored by the children. Thank you all. Thank you all.
The next program is the felicitation of the President, Professor Chandrima Shah, and the Speaker, Dr. Vashubi Fraser. We request you to both please join us here, along with Sir Neil Fraser, please. Sir, we request you to please. You can name it. We now have the President's address. Professor Chandrima Shah.
Already asked me to say something here, so I have actually lifted up something which I will read. But I must say that today I need this, I need that, and all that. I really feel ashamed against all odds to keep this up. And it is a privilege, an honor for me to be here today. And when Parvati was talking, it gave me goosebumps, thinking that Tagore is sitting here, J.C. Bose is sitting here, Sister Nivedita is there, and Swami Vivekananda is there in this very room, and it gave me goosebumps. So I was thinking that why didn't I come here? And this is a lesson actually, although late in life I am thinking that how we should respect our heritage, and I haven't done that. I think President Hinsa, I have not come here. It's something I'm feeling very bad about. I must welcome all of you on behalf of myself and on behalf of Hinsa today, because this program, as Parvati said, that we planned to organize when I was president. But then somehow it didn't get going because she was busy, I was busy, Parvati was busy, something was happening. Now, as she said that Nisi was, Hinsa was established in Nisi, in this very historic city. And where was it? It was in number 1 Park Street, a very historic building of the Asiatic Society. It was lodged there. But in 1946 it shifted to Delhi, and now it has its own office and all that. And Hinsa was established at the behest of Professor Meghnad Shah, who was the first Indian president after Professor Parmar completed his term. Now, Professor Meghnad Shah had this vision that the country needs science academies. So he not only created Hinsa, he also created the National Academy of Sciences in Allahabad. And subsequently, Professor C.V. Raman created the Bangalore Academy of Sciences in Bangalore. So that is how the science academies came about. Now, the essence of Hinsa was actually to nurture science in the country, and many distinguished scientists were taken as foundation fellows, and Professor J.C. Bose was one of them. So coming to today's lecture, which Professor Fraser is going to speak, is the friendship between J.C. Bose and Tagore. And what attracted these two intellectual giants, we should rather say, what was the common ground? And Tagore himself, in his reminiscences, wrote that in his childhood he was very interested in science, and the phenomenon of nature actually enthralled him. And he, over his entire life, he has actually probed this question of, through his poems, through his proses, through his songs, that what is the relationship between man and nature, and where is the unity? So he was actually mesmerized by the nature of it. But when he was a child, he questioned. When he was an adult, he questioned. At the end of his life, he also questioned. So Tagore found Professor Bose to be endowed with this rare faculty of poetic sensibility. He did not find it in others than many people he met, but I think Professor Bose was very sensitive. And the common bond shared between these two was their sense of aesthetics. That was very important, the sense of aesthetics they had. And also the philosophy of life was somewhat similar. Because I read somewhere that even they were so close that after Tagore's wife died, he came and stayed with the Boses. And so it shows that how close they were actually, and from two different fields. But there, the question of field is actually obliterated. It's a common ground they were there. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is that Tagore had a deep sense of harmony in the elements of nature. Because if you look at Shantiniketan, he initiated the big Koropon, which they call the big Koropon, was the planting of seedlings in a definite period of a year, and it is still followed, the Koropon. So he knew that if humanity has to survive, nature has to be preserved. So that's how Kishore came. Then came the Holocaution ceremony, which is actually the plowing of the land, and that is also practiced, it is also continued. So Tagore had this mission, he was of course ahead of his times. And this planting of saplings is something called afforestation now that we follow. So his vision was very, very much ahead of time. Now, he actually sent his son to study agriculture and create a green revolution in Birbhum. Ratindranath Tagore, he sent abroad to study. So once Tagore wrote to Leonard Elmhurst that our people need more than anything else a real scientific training that could instill in them the courage to experiment and initiate the mind, which we lack as a nation. Science has given man immense power. The golden age will return when it is used in the service of humanity. This is what he said. Now, between Bose and Tagore, there was never a rigid distinction of literature or science. They sought to find an underlying unity in all branches of knowledge. We know that Tagore was an enthusiastic supporter of Bose's research, and he wrote a poem dedicated to Bose. I will just read a few lines. From the temple of science in the west, far across the Indus, oh my friend, you have brought the garland of victory, decorated an humble head for the poor mother. This he wrote when Bose returned after his transfer in England. According to Professor Bose, Rammohn Rai was the first to see the unity of all intellectual life. His friendship with Tagore influenced his thoughts, and on the occasion of 70th birthday of poet, he wrote that his friendship has been, this about Tagore, his friendship has been unfailing through the years of my ceaseless efforts, during which I gained step by step a wider and more sympathetic view of continuity of life and its diverse manifestations. So how Tagore also influenced Bose and Bose influenced Tagore is very interesting. Now, Tagore was a rare talent with his intellect, and he made many friends, and so Geddes was one of them that we are going to hear today. And he was in ecology, and he designed the spaces. And Shantiniketan, he came to Shantiniketan and he stayed, and he helped Tagore to realize his dream. And he was an ecologist, and he understood against the harnessing the power of nature and keep a sustainability with them. So Tagore once remarked that Geddes had the precision of the scientist and the vision of a prophet, and at the same time the power of an artist to make his ideas visible. Such beautiful words. So one can imagine this kind of respect he had for Geddes. So today we listen with great interest for Professor Bharati Fraser's lecture about the contribution of these three. And I really thank you for agreeing to coming here and enlightening us about all this. And finally, thank you again for calling me here. I don't know why I haven't come all these years. I really feel bad about it. But I hope.
I now request Dr. Ashwini Fraser.
I'll begin by gifting this book, A Meeting of Two Minds. It's the third revised edition. The fourth revised edition is in press. Once it comes out, I'll give that as well. So thank you, Professor Shah. That was very interesting. Parvati, well, first of all, I should say Shubho Apuranno and Namaskar. I would like to begin by thanking Professor Parul Chakraborty, Secretary and Trustee of the J.C. Bose Trust, for her kind invitation to deliver this lecture as part of Acharya Bhavan's distinguished lecture series. Thank you to the staff of Acharya Bhavan for all the arrangements they have made for this event. A warm welcome to all my distinguished guests here, some of whom are my close friends. Thanks for making the time for coming, and I'm delighted to meet you, Professor Shah. As a woman, you're a trailblazer. Thank you. And we have met before, so it's wonderful to have you presiding today. And so I begin on this balmy, can I say Hemunto afternoon? Right. In this talk today, the legacy of Tagore and Geddes and Bose, confluence of history, heritage and education, I will try to show how this international trio met and how their work overlapped. At a time of transition when India was stepping into the modern era, as they left a rich legacy through their contribution to education, which remains beneficial to us in India today and which, if heeded, can enrich the world. Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose and Rabindranath Tagore were born within 2.5 years of each other, as we know, 1858, 1861, soon after the first Indian revolt. And they died at a similar age, 1937 and 41, so they were, as we all know, contemporaries. Patrick Geddes, the Scottish conservation architect, town planner, educationist, environmentalist, and botanist, he shares that with Bose, was 4 years older than Bose and preceded Rabindranath by 7 years. Born in Balata, in Aberdeenshire, where we've done workshops, he died at Montpellier, in the College of Ecosse, the Scots College, which he had established. What brought the scientist, the poet, the social scientist together? All three men have had a liberal upbringing, engendering social, cultural awareness and connectivity across boundaries of race, religion, and class. Rabindranath and the Acharya both belonged to the Brahmo Samaj and had enlightened parenting behind them. Geddes' Presbyterian father, with his questioning liberal humanism, had a deep influence on him. I know we are here to discuss three great men, but as a feminist, I would like to bring in the contribution of the women who played a crucial role in their lives from time to time and contributed in their own way to their success in this epochal era, namely Abula Bose, Rina Devi, and Anna Geddes. Rabindranath's words perhaps sum up the significance of the era for him and Bose. I quote, "The conventional code of life for our family became a confluence of three cultures, the Hindu, the Mohammedan, and the British." And he wasn't referring to religion, he was referring to cultures. Tagore's life and work and endeavors embody this confluence, which he seeks to realize in a meeting between divergent cultures and societies in the world, which was something Geddes too sought to accomplish as a Westerner who had a deep respect for the East. So the question now arises, when did the friends meet and seal their bond of friendship, and how did their intellectual and cultural exchange evolve? There were common friends who brought Bose, Tagore, and Geddes together. Swami Vivekananda, the Hindu savant, who had made history as a global religious leader, teacher, and philosopher. His highly intellectual Irish disciple, Margaret Noble, the cultural activist, better known as Sister Nivedita, William Archer, C.F. Andrews, who lived and worked at Shantiniketan, where Rabindranath established his school in 1901. This illustrious circle also included Mahatma Gandhi. Both Vivekananda and Nivedita were with Bose in Paris, when the latter made a considerable impression on the international scientific fraternity with his scientific discoveries, especially radio waves. Geddes and Swami Vivekananda and Margaret Noble also met in New York in 1900 when Geddes presented his city's exhibition. Geddes became soon in New York and Paris for Geddes. Geddes had probably met Rabindranath. We don't have any evidence, but we have certain tangential evidence in the town hall in Calcutta after Geddes' arrival in India, where Geddes gave a talk on his diagnostic conservation methods as a town planner and architect. Rabindranath and Bose did not meet till both had gained public reputation. The Acharya as a scientist and Rabindranath as a poet. The Rabindranath was much more, as all of them were much more than just one appellation. J.C. Bose had come back to India after a heavy phase of recognition for his work in 1896 and 97 on short electromagnetic waves. Parodi has talked a lot about this, which is, so if you want to find out more, ask the two scientists sitting in front of me. And their transmission power as signals, which was hailed and recognized by the Royal Institution in London. His articles have been published by the Royal Society. Geddes, interestingly, decided to travel to India in October 1914 on his 60th birthday, turning his back on Europe as World War I broke out. Both he and Tagore were internationally known figures by then. In 1913, Patrick Geddes had won the prestigious prize for his cities exhibition in Europe. The same year, Rabindranath, as we know, won the Nobel Prize, the first non-Westerner to receive it when he was a subject of a subject nation. He still remains the only South Asian to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. I hope we can rectify that till then. So in 1914, when Geddes made his way to India, both he and Tagore were globally known figures. They were bound to meet. All three friends definitely met in Darjeeling for the summer meeting in 1917, organized by Patrick Geddes with the help of his wife, Anna Geddes, along the lines of the Edinburgh and Paris summer schools that Geddes had held earlier, which were an endorsement of an interdisciplinary intellectual exchange of international educationists. They were all interdisciplinarians. And that is why Geddes is called a generalist, right? Here I must speak of Anna Geddes, who had nurtured and looked after many of her husband's Indian students. She fell ill and had to remain in Calcutta in those days, while the meeting went ahead in Darjeeling. When she was dying, the students to whom she had been a mother rushed to her side, and on her death, they carried her on her funeral bier. And when they reached the crematorium, they spontaneously sang a Rabindra Shanti. I'm yet to find out which one it was, which Patrick Geddes wrote was both moving and appropriate. Geddes was a friend of both Rabindranath and the Bose couple. In fact, when I read the letters between Rabindranath and Patrick Geddes at the National Library of Scotland over 2 decades ago, I also read the letters between Geddes and J.C. Bose in Geddes' almost unreadable hand and J.C. Bose's most legible handwriting. They were a revelation of the strength of East-West friendships, the common factor being Geddes here. Geddes went on to write the biography of Bose in An Indian Pioneer of Science, The Life and Work of Sir Jagadish Chandra Bose. I would urge you to buy it. It's available on Amazon. Here we have a Westerner from the dominant nation paying tribute to a leading scientist from a subject nation. Strange, but it did happen. Their friendship and work form a tapestry of international and national relationships that shaped this period in India's socio-cultural history. And what becomes evident is the crisscrossing of thoughts and actions at the crossroads of transformation in India. The respect which the friends had for each other was engendered by their shared ideologies, which were translated into services for mankind and our habitat. They were Renaissance men, polymaths, who contributed to nation building. Geddes was simply known as the professor, Tagore, the poet, and of course Bose was the scientist. The three reasons that brought J.C. Bose, Rabindranath Tagore, and Patrick Geddes together were their international reputation and hence their knowledge of each other and respect for the other's work, their common friends, and the similarity of their shared ideas on education, the environment, on building bridges between nations, between the East and the West, between the urban and the rural, between people. And as peace warriors, they remained opposed to war. Today, I got the message that Rafa Ali has been killed in Gaza by Israeli bombing, and it was targeted. Right. So, in early August 1914, Patrick Geddes wrote in a letter to Alistair, his eldest son, quote, "The war is not a crusade of new ideals, but a gathering rout of dying ideas and ideals. I'm totally against war, and I think we should stop making weapons." Perhaps this was Geddes' way of repudiating war as India beckoned. The practical impetus for Geddes to come to India came with Lord Pentland, the governor of Madras's invitation to exhibit the city's exhibition in the southern Indian metropolis. For Geddes, I quote, "The entire voyage was a transition and preparation and an opportunity. The opportunity would unfold in multiple journeys across India, Indian towns and cities, as he was invited to inspect, survey, and provide plans for improvement. As I speak to you today, we face a triple jeopardy. One, we are confronting a climate crisis where the human race stands on the brink of annihilation. Unless we do something to curb this downward spiral towards our own destruction. Two, we are still feeling the effects of a pandemic with the loss of lives and livelihoods, and a cost of living crisis, where the gap between the haves and have-nots widen, where we can't talk about Adani's wealth, can we? Three, the conflicts raging in the world are Putin's unconscionable war on a peaceful, democratic, independent Ukraine as it continues, while Israel seems determined to wipe out Palestinians in Gaza, and the humanitarian crisis as a result of conflicts in Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, from which there seems to be no respite. Dr. Shivaji Raha, director of Bose Institute in 2010, notes that whenever we are faced with change, our values change. As change signals a crisis of civilization, when a new order threatens to replace a familiar order. And perhaps this is the time when we need to take stock and revisit the past as we face the present and prepare for the future. Will we have a future for our grandchildren? That's a big question. So why should the ideas and work of Bose, Rabindranath and Geddes be worth revisiting in these life-changing, cataclysmic times? The trio sought to improve the education system in different, yet similar ways. Bose and Geddes, Tagore's ideas emanated from a philosophy that aimed at building a modern society in India, which was aware of her heritage while ensuring her place in the world. All three men believed in and introduced interdisciplinary studies which combined science, social science, and literature, art, and culture in a continuum, providing a holistic education that aimed at creating the complete human being who could contribute to nation building and promote global understanding. They all valued literature alongside science, as they were averse to compartmentalizing knowledges. They understood, we spoke about aesthetics, the aesthetic appeal of art and culture and beauty, and they all found strength in nature, recognizing her crucial role in promoting human life, which made them recognize the urgency to nurture it and its constructive and positive effect in human development in the institutions they built recordable. It in turn embodied their life philosophy. And above all, they looked into the life of things, to quote from Wordsworth. And with their Indian and Scottish heritage and consciousness, they perceived a cosmic unity. Propelled by their Brahmo monism and on the one hand, and their romantic and Celtic ethos on the other, which saw the unity of all things, which is not so well. On one of our tours of our Japan in the past, Parvati told us the story of Rabindranath paying J.C. Bose a visit to congratulate him on his scientific discoveries and success. But finding the scientist absent, Gurudev did not leave him a note, but a magnolia blossom on the table, an aesthetic symbol of appreciation that immediately made an impression on the scientist. This is a story that Dr. Rahatu mentioned in his published talk, and one that has become proverbial in any account of the mutual regard and appreciation of the poet for the scientist. What were their literary propensities? In the last decade of the 19th century, Rabindranath was involved in supervising the Tagore family estates in and around Tagore, investing in rural reconstruction projects and building cooperatives. The poet spent a lot of time on the Bajra, the Bajra, he had inherited from his grandfather, Prince Tagore, which the poet renovated and named the Bodha. It was in the Bodha, anchoring or sailing on the breast of the mighty Bodha Nodi, that the Bose couple spent weekends with the poet, visiting him from Kolkata quite regularly. But J.C. Bose had one condition. He demanded that Rabindranath write and read a short story to them on every visit. This is how the rural backwaters of Bengal became the backdrop and inspiration for many of Rabindranath's Chotogolpo, which portrayed the lives and struggle of ordinary folk in Bengal's villages and introduced the genre of the short story to Bengali literature, an innovator. What is significant about these stories is that they used conversational Bangla, Chuli Pasha, narrowing the gap between written and spoken Bengali contribution. A crucial landmark development in making Bengali literature a reflection of the modern times. After dinner, on the Bodha, the Bose couple listened to Rabindranath's rendition of his own songs. Until the last day of his life, the Acharya finished his day listening to Rabindranath Sangeet. J.C. Bose was interested in science fiction and wrote short stories in Bangla. You know, the famous ones, Niruddesher Kahini and Polatok Tufan. In 1901 and 1902, Bose was on deputation to carry on further experiments to prove a new theory, as he wanted to experiment in drawing corollaries between living and non-living things, the animate and the inanimate world of matter. It was an unorthodox approach, transgressing the boundaries of the pure sciences with its interdisciplinary approach. This dismayed the physicists and ruffled the physiologists, who did not welcome someone outside their respective disciplines trespassing into their territory. The ruling powers in India had J.C. Bose's leave cancelled, and J.C. Bose did not have the funds to continue his experiments abroad. It was then that Rabindranath, a true friend, stepped in and told him to stay in the West and promised to find funds to support his scientist friend's stay and his scientific project, which he did with a handsome sum donated by the Maharaja of Tripura. Maharaja of Tripura also donated to Shantiniketan. What is significant here is that Rabindranath, in a letter to Bose, wrote, "If we cannot set you free, then we as a nation have failed." Apollo Bose would later concede that it was Rabindranath's determination to set J.C. Bose free from colonialist constraints that prompted the scientist to seriously think of establishing an independent research institute next door, unimpeded by governmental interference and prejudice, that would operate solely for the benefit of science for his countrymen. In 1911 and 12, J.C. Bose had recovered his reputation in the West. So with renewed confidence and says, he inaugurated Bashar Mundi on his birthday in 1917, which he spoke about Parvati, founded on the principle that no inventions or discoveries from the Institute would ever be patented in what was not for which was a not-for-profit research institution dedicated to the nation, built on the premise that knowledge should be free and shared with everybody. Many across the world and through time have been baffled by this altruism that prompted this attitude that did not seek ownership of intellectual property. You know how much money people make, lawyers make in America with intellectual property rights and patents. But we have seen the same attitude spurring other generous minds like Bose in Alan Matheson Turing, who invented the code breaker that was a crucial interceptive device that saved millions of lives and helped the Allies to go into breaking German dominance in World War II. One reason why the Allies won the war. Also, Bose's coherer was instantly recognized by the British Navy as a crucial device to distinguish enemy torpedo boats from friendly ships. And in our time, we had Tim Berners-Lee, who invented and gifted the World Wide Web to the world, as he believed that knowledge should be free and shared. Rabindranath, who recognized the immense magnanimity in his friend and fellow patriot and nation builder, wrote a song which has become Bose Institute's anthem, Matri Purna Anangana, a temple of science dedicated to the motherland, which has thrived beyond colonial times to the present day. Thank goodness for that. The Bose Institute was founded as, I quote, not merely a laboratory, but a temple. Temple today has different connotations. For the advancement and the dissemination of scientific research and knowledge, J.C. Bose tried to secure a significant place for science within their educational curriculum, and we benefit from his efforts today. The idea of building institutions free from the shackles of governmental regulations and prescribed educational methods was what prompted Rabindranath earlier to establish his Brahmacharya ashram in Shantiniketan in 1901, and later to start his international university, Vishwabharati, in the fields of Bollywood in December 2021. And his rural reconstruction center in Sriniketan at Shuru in 1922. As visionaries and educationists, they saw educational institutions as embodying their dream of being creative spaces for personal development, secular, cosmopolitan, and interdisciplinary, where informed and intellectual debates were encouraged, not stifled. Bose, who needs a special mention here as the feminist educationist who played a crucial role as a pioneer of female education alongside women educators like Rajkumari Banerjee, Rokia Begum, and of course Sister Nivedita, to name a few. In fact, Sister Nivedita resided with the Bose couple for a while, having the invaluable support for her endeavors. Rabindranath School was considered a model for modern Indian education, prompting Bose to request the poet in a letter dated 11 April 1910 to write, I quote, "And when you are visiting Kolkata, could you please meet the teachers of the Brahma Girls' School?" Where is the wonderful lady from Brahma Girls' School? Yeah, and address them on education. Where can I procure the books which are taught at Bollywood? Can you send me a syllabus? If you instruct Shomitosh, and I have a footnote, then he will be able to send it to me. In the girls' school, I would like to employ your system of education. As an advocate of female education with a holistic curriculum, Abula Bose had an ally in Rabindranath, who started his school with 5 boys, as we know, which expanded to admit many more students and opened up to female students, a rare thing, a co-education school, becoming a modern co-education residential institution in an India looking forward to non-segregated schools based on gender. As some of you may know, I have edited this book, Geddes Tagore, and Geddes' salutary biography of Jagadish Chandra Bose. They remain an excellent tribute, but his Geddes, I won't say mine is an excellent tribute, it's an effort at a tribute, to an exemplary scientist and human being. In it, Geddes draws a connection between J.C. Bose and Cornwall, a character that resonated with the scientist for his unassailable nobility, integrity, and loyalty of character. We see a similar admiration for Cornwall in Rabindranath's Cornukumti Shankar. Geddes' methods were groundbreaking. He brought his sociological insight to his understanding of the local, which went into the preservation, conservation, and improvement schemes. He was a global thinker, like Tagore, who found validity in both the East and West, which he felt could inform and benefit each other. He found Rabindranath's Tota Kahini, the Parrot's Training, an exemplar, of which he made multiple copies and distributed amongst his educationist friends in the West to show how destructive rote learning could be when creativity was stifled. The love of literature was shared by all 3 men. We have already seen Bose as a science fiction writer. Rabindranath, we know, was, his literary output is like a Mahashakur. And Geddes was a poet and an editor of a journal called The Evergreen. I won't say that he was a great poet, but he was a poet, right? Geddes felt that a thinker should think like a man of action, and man of action should act like a thinker. He was in India from 1915 for 9 years. From time to time, he went back to Scotland because he shared 2 professorial chairs, the chair of botany in the University of Dundee and the chair of civics and sociology in the University of Bombay.
You know, he co-founded University of Bombay.
Thank you, yes, he did. And he introduced sociology to India and sociology to the world, actually. He's credited with doing diagnostic surveys and providing plans on invitation for between 50 and 80,000 cities in India. So most of his work is here. In Indore, for example, when the plague raged and people thought that the Sahib brought the plague, he noticed the neglect of areas where the city's sweepers lived. He asked to be a Maharaja for a day, and he said his cavalcade would go through all the streets that had been cleaned. The city slums and streets were soon cleaned in a frenzy of activity, and preparations were made for Maharaja Geddes to pass through them. Miraculously, the city was cleansed of the plague and of malaria. Can't we do that now? It was a concern for holistic education that brought Geddes and Tagore together. Both were critical of the education system that existed in their time, decrying the rote method, the lack of the enrichment through the arts in education, the incapacity of institutions to see the links between humanities and the sciences, and the divorce from the natural environment. They were conscious of the crucial role universities could play, not only working with the hinterland, but also through reaching out to a wider global community in an intellectual exchange that would bring the East and West together through mutual respect. Rabindranath's own experience of a mind-numbing educational method in the Kolkata schools of his day had prompted him to open his school in Shantiniketan and an international university thereafter. But here I must pause and bring in Mrinalini again, who acted as a mother in Rabindranath's school in her short life, planning and cooking simple but nutritious meals for the students when the funds were low. Rabindranath is known to have sat on Mora with Mrinalini Devi in the kitchen discussing recipes. Mrinalini turned a blind eye when her son, Rabindranath, with his schoolmates, raided her kitchen for food outside the times. Her untimely death was a great loss to the institution. Bose's experiment proving plant sensitivity was in tune with the trio's belief in the restorative power of nature. Both Geddes and Tagore sought a holistic approach, as I've said, to education and emphasized, as Parvati has mentioned, and you too, Professor Shah, the harmony of nature. In fact, it was Geddes who introduced nature study in schools in Britain, while Rabindranath went back to the example of the Tagore, the forest schools of ancient India, which were rooted in nature, in classrooms without walls, where teacher and students stayed together in a campus environment like a family and shared all tasks and chores, from gardening, farming, cooking to cleaning, as learning remained a part of living, as it were. Both educators stressed the need to nurture sympathy in human beings, for their fellow beings, and for their environment, as they were concerned with the interrelation between education and the environment, advocating unity. They advocated creative learning, where poetry, music, paintings, and plays were integral to the curriculum, as evident in Rabindranath's compositions of songs, poems, plays, operas, and dance dramas, which were performed by students and across Bengal, and in the pageants and masks that Geddes organized in Edinburgh and Indore. The cultivation of the arts kindled an interest in local traditions and the links with the natural surroundings and rural folk, bridging the urban-rural gap, which nurtured sympathy for fellow human beings and fostering an interrelation between the two, advocating a creative unity born of a synthesis that was possible through sympathy and synergy. These are the three S's Geddes uses: sympathy, synergy, and synthesis. After the inception of Vishwabharati, Tagore asked Geddes to provide the plans, which he did after spending 2 crowded days in Shantiniketan, observing, inspecting, and planning. Tagore asked Patrick Geddes to send his geographer son, Arthur Geddes, to come and teach at his rural reconstruction center at Srinivas. Arthur Geddes happens to be a friend of my parents. They met in London, where he spoke perfect Bangla, which Arthur did for 2 years, taking forward his father's plans on the ground. Leonard Elmhurst, we know, supervised Srinivas, assisting agricultural practices of the hinterland and encouraging the local arts and crafts. And in his absence, Arthur Geddes looked after the institution. Tagore grew very fond of Arthur Geddes. Arthur called him Gurudev, just as Gandhi did. Later on Nehru, or many others, as we know. Later on, Elmhurst, with Rabindranath's blessing, would establish Dartington Hall in Devonshire, with Srinivas as his model. Back in Shantiniketan, on silent evenings, Arthur played his violin, Scottish tunes which Rabindranath remembered from his time with the Scott family in London. Later, Arthur sought Rabindranath's permission to translate and put notations to some of his songs, and Rabindranath had full faith in him. He said, "Do what you like with my songs." He knew that Arthur would not distort their meaning. After Geddes left India and was advised, on account of his health, to live in warmer climes than Scotland, where he lived, he decided to settle down in Montpellier, where Marion Geddes, his granddaughter's place. We always stay with Marion when we go there, where he established the Scots College and the Indian College. On Geddes' invitation, Rabindranath wrote the memorial poem for the Indian College, The Eternal Dream. Arthur went on to do his PhD on the soil and topography of Tagore land, which is submitted in Montpellier. The news of his friend Patrick Geddes' death in 1932 reached Rabindranath when he was visiting Baghdad, today in ruins. And in response, he wrote his poem, The Night Has Ended. The poem is in my book. Arthur paid one final visit to Shantiniketan and Sriniketan in 1936. He taught in Edinburgh University. Today, the Patrick Geddes legacy lives on in India with universities like Jadavpur in Kolkata and Ahmedabad, who practice and teach conservation architecture along Geddesian lines. We have set up the Kolkata Scottish Heritage Trust, of which Lord Charles Bruce, great-great-grandson of the two Lord Elgins, 8th and 9th, as the chair, and I am one of the 3 trustees, which is involved in restoring and maintaining the Scottish Cemetery on Coraya Road, which will forever be a corner of Scotland in India. Here we have an ancillary project. Which is an urban regeneration project, very much in the spirit of Geddes and Tagore, which works with the surrounding Muslim community, who now cherish this Christian green space in a congested part of the city, transforming this derelict and once neglected space to one of creative activities as one community, overcoming class, religious, caste, and linguistic barriers. This is exactly what Geddes wanted. As Tagore said, nature stands on her own right, proving that she has a great function to impart the peace of the eternal to human emotions. This is the peacedom Geddes sought and found in the East in India. Can we fulfill his dream and go back to an India where everybody lived, can again live in harmony? This is understanding the environment was central to Geddes' work throughout his life. Both Rabindranath and Geddes realized that resources on this planet were not exhausted, so they needed to be conserved. And this is what all 3 visionaries understood and advocated, the need for cooperation and cooperatives, which both Tagore and Geddes strove to create and nurture in the East and in the West. In 1921, Rabindranath invited J.C. Bose to be the vice president of Vishwa Bharati, which he accepted. He gifted the 500 to invest in any program of Tagore's liking, which wasn't a very small amount in those days. Patrick Geddes also invited Rabindranath to be the president and J.C. Bose to be the vice president of the Indian College at Montpellier, the south of France. Their names appear on the letterhead, the letters that Geddes wrote to Rabindranath, embodying an East-West dialogue. On 2nd October 1926, Rabindranath wrote his Bhumika from Hotel Imperial in Vienna for his collection Bunabani, the message of the forest, dedicated to his friend Jagadish Chandra Bose. In 1931, Parvati has mentioned this, J.C. Bose was one of the major sponsors of the Golden Book of Rabindranath on his 70th birthday, edited by Ramananda Chatterjee. Shantiniketan, Sriniketan, the Bose Institute and Acharya Bhavan carried Tagore and Bose's legacy in India, and Dartington Hall remains a reminder of Tagore's crafts-related education in Devonshire, England. The Scots and Indian colleges, which are sadly no longer functioning as colleges, remain Geddesian icons in France, which many of us have campaigned for and succeeded in conserving, reflecting the conservation architect's ideas and wishes. I will end with lines from Rabindranath Road. We must find some meeting ground where there can be no question of conflicting interest. One of such places is the university, where we can work together in a common pursuit of truth and share our common heritage. Maybe we should start electing leaders who've been properly educated in proper institutions, where the curriculum should not be dictated from above, but evolve organically, while retaining an awareness of the global reality and an impetus for transnational connectivity in the spirit of Bose, Tagore, and Geddes' internationalism, which can be achieved holding conflicts at bay. Thank you for listening.
On behalf of the trustees of the Sir J.C. Bose Trust, we would like to thank firstly Professor Chundima Shah for chairing this session. We would like to thank Dr. Bashobi Fraser for delivering the distinguished lecture. We would also like to thank Mr. Neil Fraser, the son of the soil of Scotland, for his presence on this memorable occasion. Thanks to all for sparing the time. Thanks to Dr. Bashobi Fraser for delivering an extremely lucid lecture for the benefit of all of us present. We would like to thank the audience for making the program a success. We would like to thank Srimati Geeta Talukar, our patron for today's event. We would like to thank Srimati Shutapa Home for reciting the stotra at the start of the program. We request you all to please join us for refreshments. Thank you.
Interactive session, any question?
Any questions that you would like? Any questions?
Interaction,
Any questions for Bashobi or Dr. Shah? Would you like? Any questions?
গোষ্ঠী না একটাই কারণ স্কটসে একটা শব্দ আছে উই মানে ছোট গোষ্ঠী আর আমাকে দেখাই যাবে আমার নাতি বলেছে you know you need to grow so নীল আমাকে বলেছে I have some growing up
but your size is in inverse proportion to your
For any interaction?
Any questions?
or comments
I want to share with you. Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose ke Acharya Wadika diyeছেন রবীন্দ্রনাথ ঠাকুর দিয়েছেন আচার্য জগদীশ চন্দ্র বসু বলেছেন প্রথম রবীন্দ্রনাথ ঠাকুর আচার্য আর অনেক কিছু প্যাট্রিক গ্যাডেস ইন্ডিয়ার জন্য আমি অনেকগুলো স্লাইড তৈরি করেছিলাম বলবো বলে ভাবলাম বাসবিতে অনেক কিছু বলবো না ওনার কন্ট্রিবিউশন আমাদের এখানে ফর ডেভেলপমেন্ট অফ মডার্ন ইন্ডিয়া অসম্ভব আর আরেকটা জিনিস হচ্ছে জগদীশ বোসের all of you understand Bengali, right? Okay. Except me? Okay.
he is Bangla's Jamai but not a Parameshwar
Okay. Maybe. His biography was written by, Marshall mentioned that by Patrick Geddes. It is a rare honor because Patrick Geddes was older than Jagadish Bose. It is never in the history that an older person writing a biography for a living Indian person.
and from an imperialist nation.
From an imperialist nation. It's fantastic. In the biography, there are many things. Only thing missing, the correspondence between Geddes and J.C. Bose. I am sure there is in the Scottish. No, I asked Neil to do it. Not Bashobi, many things pile up, I asked Neil to do it. Yes, right. Neil will do it. Next time, Neil will tell us about their correspondence. And we want to say it here.
Neil has said that Patrick Geddes' handwriting is unreadable.
Well, I have an interesting hearing from my father. My father used to work for J.C. Bose when he was a college student here during the independent movement. But J.C. Bose's handwriting was very bad. Nobody could read it. He used to type J.C. Bose's handwriting, always explain whatever he used to type. At that time, a computer, nothing, a small typewriter. But when he became first in 1920, he was invited to go to England. He asked my father, "Would you accompany me?" Yeah, because my handwriting nobody can read. He will type on it. My father declared, because I don't go to Kalapani Desujavana. Because of independence temperament, he was not a scientist, he was a lawyer, he was defending the freedom fighter of Chitaram. Chattogram was
Treasury.
Right. Treasury, right. All this. So,
My father was from Chattogram.
yes, her father is from Chattogram. Konnafuli I asked Bashavi to write in time or to do something. Time, Tarai and Konnafuli. Konnafuli, Prabhuman. Konnafuli is not static, it's Prabhuman. We have many memories of Konnafuli. I usually, and there are rare species of, many things, dolphins, insects. I think some of these things you can see Sundarban now. But it should be done. Now IEEE chairman is from Bangladesh, Shaiful. I'm going to write to Shaiful whether we can do something to revive the legacy of J.C. Bose in Bangladesh. I visited Bangladesh, we went to Bangladesh, this place where his father used to work. He was born in his maternal uncle's house, but they were from Ladikal, Munshigranj. His house is still there, everything they are maintaining as a road. But not enough. We wanted to have an institute for integrative research like the Abdul Salam Institute in Geddes. We are moving, there are many constraints, intergovernment relationship, etc. Government change here, government change here, so. But it should be done. He is from there. I heard a story that J.C. Bose was a small boy. His mother was working he was one-story building, few rooms, 5-6 rooms. His mother was working in cooking in one room, he was playing in another. Once he had a sound. He said, "How can sound happen? My mother is cooking in the far end of the road. How can you hear that?" Then he realized that sound is a wave, it can travel through all the atmosphere. So then after that, light, sound, everything went now. So this is what we see, imagination. So we should have something. I am going to write to them, we should have a program here with Bashavi here from that side, me here from, I'm also there. Not, she didn't see it, but okay, we'll try to do something there. And our person who coordinates our thing for Mother, she was a woman. She was this stage. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. এখানে অমূল্য রতন আছে যেটা তিনটে যে তিনটে ইয়ের নাম করলাম আমরা স্ট্যাটফোর্ডের অনেকবার আর তারপরে আলবার্ট আইনস্টাইন ম্যারিগেরিস তার তুলনায় এখানে একেবারে এটা খনি অমূল্য খনি you can dig out many things and we have a plan to make it many galleries. This is the plan now, development the plan, but enough money is needed. Our bank, our organ of bank, she's in the trustee, but she, need money to develop all these things. But this, আমি একটা কথা বলি, বিন্দুতে সিন্ধু, তাই তো? বিন্দুতে সিন্ধু হয়. Drops like ocean. So আমরা ড্রপ যদি দিই দিই তাতেই সুন্দর হবে, বিন্দুতে সুন্দর। আরেকটা গান ওদের বাজাতে বলেছিলাম, ওরা বাজায়নি, আমি বলেছিলাম এটা বাজাবে, সবারে করিয়া আহ্বান, এসো আনন্দিত প্রাণ, তারপর কি আর জানি না তো, সবারে করিয়া আহ্বান, এসো আনন্দিত প্রাণ, এসো আর জানি না। এদের বলেছিলাম একটু বাজাতে, রবীন্দ্রনাথের গানটা প্রথমে, কিন্তু বাজায়নি। এদের সব ইয়ে নেই, আমি তো অত ইয়ে সেমি না, হয়তো তাই দিকে পারবো, সবারই করিয়া আহ্বান।
আমি একটা কথা বলছি, মজার কথা, ওই ন্যাশনাল লাইব্রেরি অফ স্কটল্যান্ডের যে বোস আর রবীন্দ্রনাথের চিঠিপত্র আছে, তাতে you can see the intimacy of the two friends. তাতে প্যাট্রিক গেডিস, আমাদের সবার যারা আমরা নানান ইনস্টিটিউশন ধরে রাখার চেষ্টা করি, আমরা তো সবাই সারাক্ষণ রবীন্দ্রনাথের মধ্যে বিদ্যে মনে করছি টাকা দরকার। তা গেডিস ওরকম আমাদের এডিনবরা was a very black city with terrible buildings, apartment blocks, they were covered in coal dust. So he asked the authorities to do something. Of course, they were not interested. So he bought a flat in Ramsay Gardens, and he and Anna started scrubbing the outer walls clean. Right? He invited all the residents to do the same, and it was very class divided society. So those who had money lived on the top, so they couldn't smell the refuse in the streets. And they did that, and he cleaned up a huge part of old Edinburgh and shamed the authorities into cleaning the buildings up. The other thing that came out in the letters was the humor between the two friends. There's Geddes Bush, you always want money, but you can't keep money, and he drew a hand like that, So money falls through your hand like water. The drops, he drew the drops. তোমার হাতে টাকা থাকবে না, তোমার হাতে টাকা নেই, খরচ হয়ে যাবে, জলের মতো ধরে রাখতে পারবে। So you see the humor between the two friends. I just want to add one thing. Geddes had so much respect for Indian architecture that any town, any city he went to, he always said that don't disturb it. They have a real reason for building, little lanes like that, windows that are small, corridors that go right to the back, etc. Because they know the weather, they know the landscape, they know the seasons. So he actually never touched Indian architecture. What he did was improved them. So that is what diagnostic surgery is, conservation architecture is.
Thank you so much. I being a conservation architect, I am really enlightened to learn about Patrick Geddes. We heard his name and so much contribution in detail. Just now I came to know. Thanks for that.
What is improvement trust plan of Kolkata was made by Patrick Geddes. It was accepted by the government.
And the government didn't like Patrick Geddes because when their architects wanted to improve, renovate, restore places, their budget went into lakhs and his went into hundreds. So they didn't like him. So that was it.
But was anything implemented?
A lot of it was, yes. But the documents are all here. We really need to find the documents, publish them, match them to the cities, and see what has been done.
I wish, we had known a lot more about Patrick Geddes.
Yeah, Patrick, actually improvement trust plan. So, Kapur kache there. Park circus between Sundari Mohan. This is his plan. These are all his plan. Patrick Geddes.
And he also liked, he said,
One more lecture is needed.
Yes, sure. I find up many things for Patrick Geddes. Then I thought, possible to talk about all this. But
I can't, nobody can do justice.
no. You need somebody.
Please plan on it
Yes,
so that we
architect planning. Modern days, our architect, they don't know anything about planning and architecture.
shamelessly to buy on Amazon and read Rabindranath Tagore by Bashir. Because I won't get the money for it, publisher will, but it was commissioned and it's the most recent comprehensive critical biography and it's very accessible. You don't have to be a scholar to read it, but you will find a lot about his times, the people who were being associated with like Bose and Geddes and Einstein and others. It's on Amazon. Reaction Books, London. I was commissioned to write it, but I won't get any money to buy the book, but I will get the satisfaction of knowing that it is read